More and more elected progressives are coming out and speaking in defense of those who are experiencing rage or grief or a variety of different things in reaction to the CEO assassin story. And that is giving me hope. Okay, coming out of this obviously terrible thing, that maybe something positive can develop. Something positive, but also more importantly, something real and something big and consequential to right some of the systemic wrongs that our country has labored under for longer than we've been alive. And I want to talk to you about some of what they've been saying. So you might have heard Bernie Sanders earlier this week say that the murder was outrageous and unacceptable, but he also indicated that negative feelings towards healthcare CEOs or the companies in general are entirely justified. And he said, I think what the outpouring of anger at the healthcare industry tells us is that millions of people understand that healthcare is a human right and that you cannot have people in this insurance industry rejecting needed healthcare for people while they make billions of dollars in profit. And of course, he's gonna get attacked for that, and he is. But it isn't just him. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did an interview, I think, with Business Insider, where she said, of course, we don't want to see the chaos that vigilantism presents. We also don't want to see the extreme suffering that millions of Americans confront when your life changes overnight from a horrific diagnosis and people are led to just some of the worst, not just health events, but the worst financial events of their and their families' lives. I think for people who are surprised, it's a wake-up call for how much of this exists in our society. And I'm not surprised to hear either of them saying that. I am a little bit surprised that Elizabeth Warren is coming out swinging as much as she is, because she's been super quiet in general for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, I think. That's my view. But she said the visceral response from people across this country who feel cheated, ripped off, and threatened by the vile practices of their insurance companies should be a warning to everyone in the healthcare system. Violence is never the answer, but people can be pushed only so far. This is a warning that if you push people hard enough, they lose faith in the ability of their government to make change, lose faith in the ability of the people who are providing the healthcare to make change, and start to take matters into their own hands in ways that will ultimately be a threat to everyone. And she received special criticism for that. And so she put out a clarifying comment saying violence is never the answer, period. I should have been much clearer that there is never a justification for murder. And she doesn't need me to respond to that, but I will just briefly say, no, you were fine. You made that super clear. The people who pretend to not understand that you were against the murder, they're being obviously bad faith. And the media is filled with that, and other politicians are filled with that. Stop apologizing to these people because they don't want your apology. They will never actually be appeased. Your comments are right, and AOC's comments are right, and Bernie's comments are right, and Maxwell Frost is making some great comments. And so, we can certainly read into some of this, Francesca, that maybe this is some posturing for primaries and all of that, but I'm not even against that. So what do you make of what the progressives are saying?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that it means that these people are also seeking, I mean, I don't know about Bernie Sanders, but Elizabeth Warren and AOC are thinking of themselves for higher office. And they know that, universal health care and fixing this broken ass greedy system that only benefits, CEOs is not just good policy, but it's good politics. And it's widely supported by both Democrats, Republicans, independents, and that the majority of American people are angry. I mean, we really do in this country play Russian roulette every single day and hope that it's not gonna be ourselves or our husbands or wives or our children or our parents who get the diagnosis, right? And yet we are all aging. We're going to get a diagnosis of one thing or the other, right? And this is why we need to expand Medicare, not likely privatize it like Donald Trump's second administration will do. So I think it's good. And you know what, John? It's like, this has been what now, a week and a half, 2 weeks since the actual murder. If they had come out with this immediately, there would have been even more backlash, but they're reading the room and they're seeing that there aren't people in leadership who are speaking to these grievances of, yes, the thousands of people who lose their lives every single month, who lose their homes, who lose their savings, who lose their dignity because they're getting these claims rejected. And it's another reason, lastly on this, that it's one thing to say, okay, you can't reject someone from buying healthcare because of a pre-existing condition. All right, let's rein in the evil in that one aspect. But there was never a stipulation clearly in the ACA to say, well, you can't reject claims willy-nilly. There have to be some universal standards for claims. And we know this, right? Like, for example, this is minor, but like dental healthcare, right? You guys know dental healthcare is largely a racket, but it's important, right? You know, you get cleanings, you get a cavity, whatever it is. But when you buy dental healthcare, there is a 3-month to sometimes even 6-month window before you can actually use it for anything important, because they're trying to lock you in so that you don't say, oh shoot, I need a crown, you know, let me buy the healthcare. It's like, so you don't scam the private dental healthcare insurance industry.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the point, right? And so again, like, all of these little ways that, again, if you're healthy or you've got health insurance through your employer, you're like, well, I'm okay, I think I'm okay. And yet inevitably it's gonna come for all of us.
Yeah. And look, I try to have empathy for that. Obviously, you know, I don't need dental care. Sugar doesn't touch these teeth. And in terms of the roulette thing, like, I keep it tight. I think we all know that. So, but for other people, yeah, I can imagine that would be scary and create some anxiety. But anyway, yeah, look, I'm glad that they're all like, what the right would want to come out of this is just these damn people, not even like, he's not even a poor guy, he's a rich guy, but like these poor people taking matters in their own hands. It's not right. Vigilantism isn't right unless you're killing another poor person. If you're acting up on the train, you're off with their head. You know, if you're like, you know, if you're a black teenager and you've got Skittles or whatever, obviously you should be shot dead in the streets. And then the person who killed you, they're a hero. We all know that. If you go to a protest to kill protesters and you do that, we will give you a career in media. But you're not supposed to shoot rich people, you idiots. That's what they would want the message to be coming out of this. I want a strong message sent to the politicians and to the media. No, the ACA stemmed some of the suffering. It took like the most fundamentally unjust system we had and made it tolerable for the most part for some people for some time. But it was always supposed to be the thing that was built on. And the only thing that's happened in regard to the ACA ever since then is chipping away and attempting to take the legs out from under it. Now, we weren't done. Okay, and maybe that message got lost. Maybe it was co-opted by some other Democrats, but I think we need a round two. I think we need at the very least a round two, and I think that 2028 would be a great time to litigate that. Do the groundwork in 2026, which is why if these politicians, maybe not, again, Bernie Sanders, because he's 1,000 years old or whatever, he's older than Smaug, although I would love for him to run regardless. But if AOC and Elizabeth Warren, if they're posturing that I'm gonna run and I'm gonna focus on getting single payer healthcare, good. That's only 1,000 times better than whatever backroom planning Pete Buttigieg is doing or Gavin Newsom or a lot of these others. And look, if they wanna sign on to that too, if they can read the room and see how much anger there is about the status quo, how much desire there is to change things. And we see these polls showing like 62% of the country thinks the government should guarantee healthcare, which is like 20 points higher than it was a decade ago. Then sure, they can sign on too. I'm still gonna go with the people that have been more authentic about that for a longer period of time. But that's what I wanna see come out of this.
No, and look, I think I can think of a million different small reforms that would help the ACA be more affordable as someone who buys their healthcare on the marketplace. But again, these small reforms are not saving lives tomorrow. They just really aren't. And if you ask me, the private healthcare insurance industry has completely lost any credibility and ability to provide healthcare to Americans. They must be forced to forfeit the right to provide this service because they've proven they cannot. That is where I stand. But what I think Elizabeth Warren's statement is the best before the apology, right? People can only be pushed so far. And if they see that those in government aren't doing F all to change it, they think that, well, they have to just take matters into their own hands, right? And if it sparks this conversation, if we're talking about it, I mean, it's like, you've got Michael Moore coming out with Sicko, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
However long ago it was that he came out with this groundbreaking documentary that showed all the people with health insurance, and it was sort of the precursor to the ACA. Well, you could really do the same exact documentary now, even with the ACA. So yeah. We are at a breaking point. I mean, really it is socialism or barbarism, if you ask me. Either we make drastic changes or we're going to get techno-fascism bankrolled
Yeah.
by crypto fascism or like crazy vigilantism.
Yeah, well, so I wanna be productive. I'm the new John. I'm both productive and way more petty and spiteful, and I think both of those are good improvements. So Michael Moore, I think it's time for sickos. And I'd like to collaborate. You, Francesca, you've done documentary work about the healthcare system.
Yes.
It's going to be an updated sicko, but the sickos in this case are the CEOs of all these companies. And we're going to profile them. We're going to talk about their crimes, and we're also going to tell the stories of people who are still suffering and dying under the current status quo. So I think sickos needs to come out. We start working on it today. We probably hit festivals late next year, maybe the year after. But I think that's pretty awesome. Let's do it. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.